The last round of the 26th SKB tournament had a dramatic finish. Dhruv, who was leading by 1 point going into the round, actually just needed a draw to become the champion. And he had a good position. The spectators were thinking, along with me, were thinking he would win or at least draw. But then he went on to lose his game. And that left the tournament wide open for Arush, Adrit, and Ayush. Out of the three, Arush's tiebreak was better than the others. And that tiebreak actually got decided only by the last game of the tournament, which was played by Asmi. And Asmi had already played Arush, so her win increased Arush's tiebreak by 1 point. Otherwise, Adrit would have been first. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the last round game of all these four players. That is three games because Dhruv played against Adrit and Adrit won. So, let's see the main game Dhruv versus Adrit. Dhruv started with d4, Adrit played d5, and then Dhruv played e4. I'm not really familiar with this opening, I haven't seen it before. Point must be that white would take back the pawn, but I'm not sure what happens after, let's say, f5, defending that pawn. I guess white just keeps the position and then takes advantage of the weaknesses. But Adrit decided to play knight c6, attacking d4, but that allows d5. Dhruv could have done that, but Dhruv plays f3. That's basically a losing move because it completely ruins the opening. Black can just take the pawn on d4 for free. So that means he's up a pawn. Even though white took back, he was already down a pawn. So black is up a pawn now. Bishop f5, pawn c3, knight back, takes. Bishop f4, e5. So this bishop f4 actually is a silly move because e5 just hits it. Bishop goes back, bishop e7, and bishop b5. Here he is threatening bishop takes knight and then taking on a7. So Adrit had to go a6, but he goes knight f6, allowing this to happen. So material is back to even. And then he just castles. Adrit just castles. Position is still good for black because of the two bishops, and white is underdeveloped. Rook moves, knight moves, e4, taking advantage of the center, that the king is in the center of the board. Rook f1, because if you castle, then I'll just take, and then the knight gets hit. So he just plays rook f1. So the position is already really bad for Dhruv. h6, just a calm move, opening up the corner for the king. h3, preparing g4. Rook d5, attacking the bishop. Bishop goes back. Bishop h4, not letting g3 happen. But actually g3 is possible, isn't it? After g3 though, there is pawn takes pawn. And after rook takes, is the rook e5. That should be a good position for black. But Adrit went back, not taking a risk. Now he takes the h3 pawn, rook has to move, and then he takes on f3. This is great for Adrit. He played bishop g4, piling up the pressure. Now rook e5. Right? Oh, he plays rook takes. Rook e5 would have been great because if rook d2, you can play bishop g5. The rook is forced in the corner. Now this is a great position for Adrit. But the game went on. Rook takes, king takes, rook e3, king e1 takes. So Adrit decides to take the pawn, but that allows a lot of counterplay with this a pawn. Dhruv pushes the a pawn. Now this is where I thought the position is good for white. Because how does this rook come into the game? I thought the rook had to come to g1 and then come to a1. But even then bishop a3 would shut it out. a5, rook b5. Here, rook check, king moves and pawn push. The position is winning. So rook b5 doesn't do anything. Adrit was counting on c5, but the c5 does not do anything because of bishop checking moves and let's say bishop moves, king moves, and now if you play c5, the pawn pushes, and taking the bishop will allow the queen, and rook cannot come here because of bishop. So this rook b5 did not work. So Adrit just went back and then a7, and he had to give up his rook. So this position is supposed to be winning, easily winning. King g6, rook comes in, picking up pawns, pawn rushes down, but that's a free rook. This was a blunder by Dhruv. In this position, he had no reason to give up his rook. Should have won, just get the king over. Pawns will need more time to come in, but that's an extra rook. And these pawns will also start rolling. So Dhruv had this tournament in his hands, but then he let it slip by playing rook e7. Takes. After this, it is an equal position. King comes in and the pawns are going to roll down the board. Pawn push. White also pushes. Bishop f2 check. Here came another big moment. Without the engine's help, I thought Dhruv's move bishop takes was absolutely unnecessary. Why give up that pawn? Why not just play c4, h3? Then I realized that with the help of I realized that bishop g1 is the only move here because otherwise it promotes. After bishop g1, king will come in. So anyway, the bishop will have to give itself up for the pawn. But it looked winning for white. Like let's say I push, king g2 would win for black though, hitting the bishop and then promotes. So what Dhruv did was actually the correct decision. It might not have been needed there, but it was the correct decision. Because now the problem is this move, king f3. King f3 just goes into the mouth of this pawn basically. In two moves, the pawn is anyway going to come to g4. Here, Dhruv had to take us without wasting time. He should have played c4 and b5. The race would be equal. But then he played king f3, g5. He thought the race is equal, but then, to his horror, he realized he cannot queen. He was counting on queens. But the problem is if you queen, then queen h2 just wins the queen. And there went the tournament. So Dhruv is in a completely losing position now. And now the pawn is gone and Adrit did not take long to convert. He just got the king over. Once he got the king over, he gave checkmate. So that is how the game that could have given the championship for Dhruv ended up. He just needed a draw. Now in the that left the tournament open to three others: Adrit, Ayush, and who was it? The third person? Yeah, Arush. Arush won the tournament. So let's see the champions game. Champion on tie break. Let's see his game. Arush was playing against Vidhu. Arush was black. So e4, e5. Vidhu played the Gecko piano, a quiet Gecko piano, and then he played the silly move, knight e5. Some players do this, but it does not do anything. It just asking for the exchange by after wasting three moves with that same knight. Like here, what you've done is help the queen develop. To do that, you wasted three moves. So this is never good. So in this position, what you should do is to play a3, b4, develop your queen, move the knight, play h3, c3, and then d4. d4 is a move you want to work for. Or just develop your pieces. That's it. That's all there is. But he goes knight d5 and then this becomes good for black. Bishop g4. Pawn d4 now. But d4 is never possible now. Because white is not defending it enough. The knight is pinned. There's only a bishop defending it. But there are four pieces attacking it. So d4 is another silly move. Is giving up the pawn. Now knight e5. Knight takes, bishop takes, queen takes, queen takes. Pawn structure is bad. King safety is not a problem because it's the endgame, but the pawn structure is bad. That favors black. That's a very good move, f5. Not letting white play f4 and e5 and all those things. Rook e1, takes. And now Arish was counting on this tactic, the rook f2 tactic, which is possible after d3. He goes d3. Vidhu correctly sees it and goes back to f1. Now takes. So he's basically a pawn up. Rook e8, takes. So black is a pawn up. Arush is a pawn up. So this endgame is he wins a second pawn like that. He actually could have taken a second pawn like this, but then he would also lose this. That would give white the activity. So Arush decides the correct move, rook g4, which forces an exchange of everything. It becomes a pawn endgame with the pawn up. That was a very good decision, very good chess by Arush. And he gets the king in the game and then uses his extra pawn to promote. The way he wins is very funny actually. He gets one pass pawn here and then he creates another this side. The white king, the poor white king is not able to control both sides. When he goes to the other side, this guy promotes. And then it became checkmate. He just got the king over just like Adrit and gave checkmate. The third game which gave Ayush the under 10 championship and overall fourth was this game against Aditya. Ayush was black, e4, e5, knight out, bishop out, c3, knight out, d4, takes e5. Here Ayush did not play the correct move. The correct move was d5. But then he played a knight e4, allowing queen e2. And now d5 does not defend the knight. I can just take free pawn. Bishop f5, bishop d5. But bishop d5 is a blunder because d3, that's very hard to find. The point is, after d3, where does a queen go? Queen goes back, then bishop f2 or knight f2. So d3 would have won for Ayush right on the spot. This bishop d5 was a mistake, big blunder by Aditya. But he played bishop d5, castles, takes, and queen cannot take back. because of rook e8. So you're not getting the piece. Knight takes, bishop takes, queen takes. Even here, Ayush has a win. Just rook e8, and the king has to move. There's no way to block. Knight e4 just loses the knight to to something like what would lose. Let's say knight rook e8. If you play knight e4, I can just play something like queen h1 and attack it twice. He can't defend it, right? So that would win a piece for Ayush. I don't know why he didn't play it. It's a very easy move to play. He's rook e8. The king is in the middle, rook e8. But both of them are playing fast, especially Ayush. So he did not find this move. The only benefit of playing fast is you get to miss such interesting and good moves. Knight c4, queen e6, but now it just goes to the end game. What is the situation now? Pawns are 6, black is up a pawn. King's position is a little weak. Black's pieces are active. Goes b4, bishop d4, rook moves. He just exchanges everything. I don't know why Aditya did not take back the bishop. Obvious move, na? Just develop your bishop. He just took the pawn for some reason. Pawn a5. He pushes his pawn forward, takes a lot of space, and then loses a pawn. Now c5. This position is equal, actually better for Aditya. He's up a pawn, right? But rook a8 takes things. Bishop c3. Knight takes, giving up the pawn. He had to go king b3, defending both the pawns. This should have been good for Aditya. He didn't play it. Bishop c3 takes. Knight goes back, rook moves, knight moves. Knight moves in. c4, king moves, f5, rook e1, knight d1, king takes, bishop takes, king takes, pawn takes, rook takes, rook takes. So it all became an equal endgame. And then came the decisive moment. Not here. King comes in. This is equal, and then came the blunder. Aditya just blunders a full rook, allowing rook a4. If Aditya had won, he would have been the one first in under 10. But then this is what happened. He could not have won this, at least he could have drawn it. He just gifted the point, half a point to Ayush. And from here, it was not difficult for Ayush to win. He just kept the king at bay, promoted to queen, I suppose. King cannot cross, and then did a queen rook checkmate and mate. So this is how the last round went for the top 5 players. Yeah, if Aditya had won, he would have been on 5, and he would be somewhere here. Yeah, but that's how it is. So the last round became very intense, and Adrit played a very good game to win against the leader, Dhruv, to catch him. But then Arish had the better tiebreak, thanks to a few results going his way. And Arish became the champion. In under 10, Ayush became the champion. He was second, but Ayush had got first in main, so Ayush got second. And overall, Ayush was fourth. So this was the first time the tournament happened in Leeches, and it went well. And everybody played decent chess. Let's see how it goes in the next tournament.